believe in change and we're prepared for it with new techniques and new approaches. And as for our part, we feel that you're the best pieces of manpower available in this whole region.
Let it go out there today, baby.
3, 2, 1.
And once again, our mighty ship is back on course.
Welcome to the Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast.
Mama, there goes that man.
You the man. Ladies and gentlemen, star of our show.
Welcome to another edition of Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast. While it's still the Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast, you see my guy Reggie Brown right there. I'm bringing him up in just a second, but first and foremost, welcome aboard. We got a great show. We have a conversation with Marcus Sullivan from Blessed Beats and Grand Imaging. That's going to be the second half of the show, but I wanted to bring in my guy Reggie Brown, and I am so glad that we are back. It's been a minute. I have been extremely busy. You've been extremely busy, and so now we were able to coordinate our schedules, barely, but we got there. And welcome back, man. I'm glad to have you back.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be back. You put me on the bench, man. At least you put me back in the game, so let's go.
Oh, man, you were a free agent, man. You were hanging out with Tyreek Hill, man. I mean, it's been a lot that has gone on. We have not talked since the Super Bowl, right? I've done some around Super Bowl. I mean, we've talked, but we've just not been on the air. Been extremely busy, and a lot has gone on in the world of sports. A lot has gone on with these celebrities, man, with Chilli and, with Salt and with Nick Cannon. And, you think about this, and I talked about this on a different forum, right, on our community affairs program. And I think I got the answer, man. So I'm sure you're familiar with the number that says 54% of Americans cannot read past a sixth grade level.
God.
No, this is real talk, right? Right. This is a real number. I'm not making this up.
No,
right?
I know. I know.
Right. So instead of us talking about the 49ers, we need to talk about the 54s. So every time we see some bullshit that is just unexplainable, we know what it is. She's a 54. Nick Cannon is a 54 and got 20 kids. So, I mean, that's what it is. You can't really articulate with any good sense why you would support somebody that is so anti-black. But, I mean, so do you think the tour will be disrupted or canceled? And let me reset. Before you answer, let me reset. So Chilli of TLC fame, which was pretty big back in the 90s, right?
Oh,
and
yeah,
she
I had a crush on all three of them.
Well, I didn't have. No, she would have been the one. And then it's like anything else, some of them, they look, they're very attractive. And then you sit down and have a conversation and you can hear the wind blowing through the
No
ears.
left eye, no T-bars.
Nah, that was, look, all that drama that came with Left Eye. No, man, that's too much for me.
Oh, I forgot, burning down houses and carrying.
Yeah, that's your fellow NFL player, Andre Rison. So, that was like Lil Milton said, that was too much for me. That was too much for me. And never was a T-Bars person, but yes, she was the one, And then, so apparently what happened, well, okay, she reposted something that depicted Michelle Obama as a man. Somebody posted something saying she was born a man, right? And she went on to apologize and say, oh, no, I didn't understand the buttons and the repost and the technology. I'm not savvy like that. And then, of course, the internet does what the internet does, and they got receipts. So this is on the cusp of a big tour with En Vogue, Salt and Pepper, and TLC. My question to you is, you going?
I wouldn't have went in the first place. I mean, I'm past, reliving the 90s as such, right?
Right.
But I come down on it on two ways. The first way is the answer is worse than the crime. When you post something like that, that's a serious thing. No matter what your political affiliation is, that's way out of bounds. But then the answer that you give makes it even worse than actually posting it. And that's the problem I have. When it comes down to people's affiliations and personal politics, hey, people believe what they believe. I ain't got no problem with it. Whatever. That's what you believe. If you're a MAGA, I don't understand it. But hey, if that's what you are, that's what you are. But it goes out of bounds when you posting and alleging that the first lady was a man, and no, that's way too much. So no, and to answer your question that you're about to answer, 0 sales from this point on. Ain't nobody going to them concerts. They didn't get that. Cancel culture is real, man.
Yeah, and again, they have reappropriated the word cancel culture like it's some sort of, and woke and all of that.
Right.
Woke comes from wanting your brothers to be aware of what's going on around you. There are a lot of people we still want to wake up, right?
Right.
I mean, we want those 54%ers to read a little bit more, do a little bit more research, Nick Cannon, right? But no, and I'm the opposite from you. If you MAGA, I cannot rock with you at all because it's so blatantly horrible, anti-intellectual, racist, just abuse of power. It's a grift. It's all of those things. It is rocking the core of the institutions of America in a way that we won't recover from in a while. But to know who this dude is and to understand if that's who you rock with, I don't have anything for you in that way. I really don't. With one small exception, and we'll get to him in just a minute. But when you look at 300,000 black men or women who've been unemployed since his regime, right? And the sort of the effort to specifically eliminate DEI and be more inclusive, you're gonna get on the wrong side of black women. And black women do not play about this. And the memes and the songs and the posts have been serious and hilarious at the same time.
The internet is undefeated, bro. It's undefeated.
It is, and it didn't take them long either, right? Didn't take them long either. So, it's one of those things.
Did you at all buy her answer?
No, not even in the beginning. Bro, everybody's on Instagram, bro. It's Instagram. You know what you're pushing.
That's the part that made it worse for me. I mean, stand on it. Just stand on it. That's your orientation. If that's what you believe, don't come out here and play us like, oh yeah, I didn't hit the right button and I didn't do this. Because as you correctly state, the internet got receipts, man. They gonna find.
And she's from the land of Stacey Abrams, man, a icon. You know what I mean? It's like, and then you starting to hear some more of these people be outed for this, and this is gonna happen in society. It's almost like, and I use the analogy of MC Hammer days, right? Every MC Hammer sold millions of records. You cannot find anybody that say, "Hey, I was MC. I was the guy. I brought the record. I brought the CDs."
Quit, baby.
Right. You can't find on anybody that's like, "Oh yeah, I was rocking with Vanilla Ice," And I think a lot of people will try to separate themselves. You see some of the podcast bros doing that now. Like, what's wrong with these people? They're morons. No, you played on that to get paid. And you helped bring in tyranny in the process. But, it's a crazy time. It's just always interesting. And we have these things seem to bleed into sports and entertainment more and more.
Yes.
Because, what we're missing here, where's the Marvin Gaye What's Going On album? Like, where are the protest songs? Where are the people who are pushing back? You got maybe Kendrick Lamar, maybe a couple other. You would know better than me, but I don't get a sense that there's a movement of art or artists trying to awaken the public.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe that there is a place in sports for these conversations?
Well, I do think around sports because so many things. I think we spend money with these teams and these organizations, right? Right. We make them, we enrich them with our financial support, right?
Right.
So there are places and times and circumstances that had the discussions about, okay, do I want to support the NBA? Do I want to support the NFL? Do I want to support this particular owner when their politics don't align with me as a human being? Like with me, with humanizing me. You know what I mean? So it gets really, really complex, and a lot of people don't want to go down it because it's a slippery slope. Because we do know that most owners, obviously, are billionaires, and they have financial interests in who they support and why they support them, right? So, do you just totally go politics and be like, man, I just cannot watch the NFL? I was talking to somebody about we were talking about Colin Kaepernick with Marcus. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but I know a handful of people who left the NFL when that happened because of Kaepernick being blackballed. And some people have not returned fully to the NFL. And at a point, you're like, man, they just ruin everything. Because you can't, if you have a conscious mind, it's hard to support certain owners and certain teams. I mean, we see some of the stuff that's come out about Jerry Jones and him in Arkansas as a kid, and all of the things that go on. It can rob you of your enjoyment if you let it. But do we have a responsibility as consumers to say, I'm not gonna make this guy rich?
Well, I tend to think that we should not include it, because if you look at their 32 NFL owners, all of them have some orientation that I may or may not agree with if I knew about their things. I mean, does Kraft from New England going to the brothel, is that the thing that makes you say, no, I don't want to be associated with the New England Patriots because the owner is going to the whorehouse?
I get what you're saying, right? But how about this? Why are there not more black GMs, more black owners, more black head coaches in the NFL? Politics comes into play with that as well, right? Because you're depriving qualified men of opportunity.
Right, so you can have those. So that's what I'm saying. It's
That's politics too, though, right?
The line? No, where is the line? You can have those discussions. The one thing I'll say about the NFL more than any other machine, it is cancel free. You can't cancel the NFL. There's
Not
nothing
yet.
that machine right there gonna keep rolling. Now there'll be some, maybe a drop on a particular Sunday where people show their disdain, but that machine right there is like kryptonite. It keep going, man.
But we know. I mean, we live long enough where there have been major sports that are no longer major sports, right? Boxing was up there, top 5, right? Boxing was up there, no longer. You know what I mean?
Was it because of politics though, or was it
No.
because of
I mean, I'm
decline
saying
of talent?
because things have changed, right? And the politics around how the sport is governed, pay-per-view. I mean, yeah, it was really a lot of it was mostly self-inflicted, right? So from that standpoint, not strictly political, but what the bigger point is, we've lived long enough to see things. Baseball was America's pastime, the number one sport in America for decades, and that has come to a screeching halt. So it can happen to the NFL. CTE, I think, has done a lot to harm football, and we've seen the drop off.
Yeah.
We've seen
that the game getting softer is the word that I would use. Almost turning into 7-on-7 ish.
And they're going that way, right? They're pivoting towards that. You see Brady and his endeavor. You're having flag football in the Olympics. The NFL is all hands on deck to support that, right?
Right.
Having more female participation.
Right.
This is the pivot. The question is, 25 years from now, will there still be room for the game that we grew up loving and participating in, or would it just be 7-on-7? Because football is a game, more or less, you can have every body type. If you are big and slow, but you're big, I mean, now you got to be a whole lot more athletic to reach to the highest levels. But if you were big and you couldn't play basketball, you too big to play baseball. There was a place for you on that D line in that A gap, right?
Yeah, right.
There was a place for you on that O line. Yeah, if you were a little bitty guy, you can line up in a slot. If you're quick enough, if you're crafty enough, you can find a career for yourself. If you go 7-on-7, you have eliminated a lot of potential participants in the game. But it looks like society is kind of leaning that way,
Oh, you've
unfortunately.
eliminated
For me.
everybody except receivers, DBs, and quarterbacks. I mean,
Right.
linebackers would be, in the
Yeah,
707.
they'll be 195 pounds,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So I say all that to say that there is a line where we have to engage in politics, even if we don't want to, right? Like, even if we don't want to. We talk about the Jaden Ivy situation, right? Even though whatever you believe, it is a political thing. It's not a religious thing. It was like, okay, the religious thing affects the bottom line, right? And although there is some political backing for the religious right, in this space, they have calculated that the more we open up the game and support all of these causes, it makes us appear to be more inviting to everybody, and everybody has a seat in the stadium. And they made the decision, and we'll talk. I talk more in depth with Marcus about it, but just your general thoughts on Jaden Ivy. And if you don't know, he was a basketball player released from the Chicago Bulls for espousing a lot of, I would say, anti-LGBTQ sentiment. Basically insulted the Catholic religion, insulted like Steph Curry and other people. Was preaching a lot in the locker room, and his skill set is such that he's not good enough to get away with that in the NBA, and he was waived. But what are your takeaways?
Well, I think that these are the things that you get in that why these things, in my mind, shouldn't be crossed over, because I don't agree with half of what he said, or probably none of what he said. But I have a problem with when you said you're representing an NFL team. That's when an NBA team. That's when the problem comes. Like, on your own time, in a way, like, we all have our own belief systems, but you can't espouse hate no matter what your belief system. So he suggests that his belief system is a Christian, right? Well, is what you're saying indicative of what how Christians should handle these situations? Because I subscribe to the fact that if you say you're a Christian, then there's a way that you have these conversations. And that's when it gets all crazy, when people just become these religious zealots and start sending everybody to hell. That's the problem. But then at the same time, you want to say you believe in God, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that's the problem with these things, is that people get so holier than thou, and then they start sending everybody to hell, and ain't nobody right but me, and I'm righteous, and y'all ain't nothing, and God loves me, not you, and all of those things.
Right.
And that's when the problem really comes. Just live your life in a way that's indicative of your belief, and minister to people who want to be ministered to in a way that they can receive it, because nobody's receiving his message, first of all, the way that he's given it.
Yeah, and I think you're starting to hear that. Yeah, he's had bouts with some depression and some mental health stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you try to look for relief in that area, you take the purity test, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
everything becomes a purity test. And if it is related to him not being well, or really leaning too heavily on that crutch to try to resolve really other issues, you hope that he gets sort of some insight and some help. And it brings up to mind, you played in the NFL, right, for a number of years. The NFL locker room, what they said essentially was a lot of his teammates they were really done with him because he was preaching constantly and espousing his beliefs in the locker room. You've seen both ends of the spectrum. in a locker room. See the sinners and the saints and the wannabe saints, the self-proclaimed saints. You see it all.
And I was somewhere in the middle.
Well, I knew you back then, so I know what side you leaned a little bit closer towards. So okay, if you're in the middle, we'll give you that. But I don't think either one of us was in the middle. So,
okay.
But how did you deal with that? Obviously, there was a presence. I mean, you have the Christian athletes. You have the prayers after the games, but you also had some people with some extreme. I would imagine some more extreme beliefs in the locker room.
Well,
How did you guys deal with it?
I think it's what's going on in society that is being exasperated by the current president. There is no civility, man. Like, people just, they come at you and such, so hardcore, and they just dump their beliefs on you. And if you don't believe it, if you don't buy into it, then something is wrong with you. When I was in the locker room, you had guys who did whatever they did. They didn't force it on you. They was hanging out at the club every night. They said, "Hey man, I'm gonna be at the club. If you wanted to show up, you showed up." There were people who said, "Hey man, I'm going to church on Saturday night. If you want to come to church, come with me." And that was the end of it. And people, respected how people handled whatever their belief system was. You had in our locker room, I'm thinking of certain guys who were hardcore conservatives. They had their beliefs, but there was still a level of unity and trust and friendship and bonds with people who were hardcore liberals, right? And who, espoused to whatever they believed in. But now we live in a society where there is no room for conversation. It's either my way or you wrong, you stupid, you jacked up, all of the above. And that's where we're going as a society. And you just see that behavior in so many different places.
Yeah, and I find myself being one of those people in that if you are aligned with a belief that dehumanizes black people, there's no compromise for me. So yeah, I'm probably as guilty as
there are some things. I do
right.
have to cut you up, but I do agree that there are some situations where there's some lines in the sand. I 100%.
When you remove African American, try to remove African American books and demote and remove high-ranking military officials because they're black, no other real reason that you can identify. When you take down you rename bases loosely on Confederate soldiers, which we thought we had dealt with some of that. When you take down placards commemorating and recognizing Black history in national parks, that's you want to lock up people in cages and Alcatraz Alley, all of those things, man. I cannot align. Like, look, growing up, we grew up in a different time where you had conservatives, liberals, people who wanted less government, more, trickle down economics. And you had other people who wanted to build from the bottom up. Those are real policy disagreements. What's going on now is much more cultural, much more racial, much more about promoting certain religion and certain races. And you can't debate that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'll give you an example where there are lines in the sands. And this is why I feel society has taken a really bad turn for the worse. When that picture of Obama and Michelle were posted as the animals, right?
Right. Reposted
the entire country was supposed to say, we do not accept that. Right. There was not one American should have said, "Now this is right. That was just a mistake." Oh, it ain't. No, all of us, because I would have felt the same way if somebody had did something similar to that to Trump and Melania. There's a respect of the office of the president, and there are certain things that you just don't do, particularly from the office of the president. And the fact that people were not upset and just distraught, black, white, green, yellow. Everybody in this country should have said absolutely not.
Yeah.
And the fact that there were millions of people who somehow supported and made this all right is really, really sad, man. It really
Yeah.
to
I
where
mean,
we
and
are
that's
as
one
a
of
society.
That's one of a number of examples. But I mean, these conversations, I think, places like this, when you do have informed participants, are easier to have. So because you do you understand nuance, you have historical context for some of the things that we talk about here. So if you're gonna talk about it, I think there's certain places that are more qualified than others
Yeah.
to have important discussions, because now we know. Look, you are in the heart of it with the collective, right? With knowing and understanding NIL and the politics around trying to rein in control on these young student athletes who really their participation creates billions of dollars in revenue. How do they get a bigger piece? That's politics. We don't want to say the word politics. We don't want to talk about it. But if you sit there and you try to make rules that govern, I mean, it just struck me when I went to the Final Four for the first time. There were really, really rich people. And at the time, the first one I went to, the vice president was Joe Biden. He was there. And you had all of these super rich people. Jordan was there. All of these people spent tens of thousands of dollars to be there, right? Not to mention, flying in and hotels and just spending a
Entourage.
ginormous amount of money to watch kids that can't go to the store and buy a new pair of shoes, right? It struck me in that moment. And so now these guys, through court rulings, through politics, have gotten control of their situation and able to make money. Now there's pushback, and everybody from Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney, they all want to wrestle back control of these young men. And, that's where politics comes in.
Well, I always said you mentioned Dabo and Saban. Look, before NILs were legal, they were leading the charge illegally. I know for a fact that Nick Saban done put money in a bag and handed it to a parent. I know some of these things as fact. He has orchestrated $200,000 payments for players illegally. So now when it's legal, now for you to say this is a problem, it's kind of disingenuous. You know that this has been going on, and the players, it's been going on because the players have deserved it. You think about, I saw something that said like Alabama football makes $100 million a year. And them players can't get none of that.
Yeah, or you want to control how they move. So again, it goes back to the recurring theme of politics. You don't want to deal with it because look, you and I both love games more than anything else. I sit there despite some of the stuff I already know. I watch the games and I'm able to disconnect from that for a while, right? Yeah, I can watch a game and not be like, oh, I can't root for him. It gets tougher with some of the outspoken athletes, like the Butker guy in Kansas City, but I'm still a Chiefs fan, right? These days because of Mahomes. Mahomes is he's not somebody I'll probably kick it with. We wouldn't be boys if we knew each other, right? But I'm still able to detach and root for him, despite some of the things maybe his wife has said and some of the stuff that you sense. So I'm able to detach from that. And one of the people that I am able to detach the most from, who I know is friends with Trump, is Tiger Woods. And I have to say, man, he is the only one that has seemed to be a bit immune from my venom, right? As it pertains to his association. And I'm gonna tell you why, man. He's not a 54, right? He's not a 54%er, but he grew up in a way that is totally different, right? He has no sense.
Yeah.
He has no sense of what life is like for 99.9% of African Americans. And so he spent his life in country clubs and exclusive golf clubs. And as soon as he got out of Stanford, which Stanford, again, on its own is tough enough to get into and expensive and all of those things, you have thrived in this space for 30, 40 years. And so when he when he had his incident last week, I didn't, for a couple of reasons, I didn't want to really bash him, but it makes me reflect on him. And I would tell you, and I want to ask you this question, right? What athlete did you plan to watch more than any? Like, okay, your day is dictated by this one player. Like, okay, I don't care what else is going on. I'm clearing my schedule for that day because I gotta be able to watch that person do his thing. What one player is that for you in your lifetime?
That's a good one, man. The obvious answer gonna shock you. It's gonna
The,
absolutely shock you. The
okay,
obvious answer for
give
me,
me the sport. Give me the sport.
football.
I would say if it's not Dan Marino, it's Bob Greasy.
Dan Marino.
Yeah.
Dan Marino. I mean, it's Sunday at 12. Man, I used to be, I was in Miami, so it was Sunday at 1. And man, I went to church every Sunday, and man, I was looking at that clock, man. I was looking at that clock, man, and I was like, come on, Pastor. Now, God, man, oh man, and it was pure. I still remember sweating in church and just, clenching my fingers, trying to, all right, the benediction, man, the Dolphins finna play, Dan Marino finna play. I mean, it was that intense for me. And then obviously Jordan, was must-see TV for me, and I will tell you this, I liked Scottie Pippen more than I actually liked Jordan back in those days, but the Bulls, I would say, and then when Tiger came along, man, he changed everything, man. And
Yeah.
we've talked to this in another platform, man. I, I'm glad to hear that today he's going to, seek some help, because this seems like if it doesn't get some help, it's a train wreck and it's going to end up really, really bad. So I'm glad to hear that he's, trying to get some help.
Yeah, for me, and then Tiger was one of those people, right?
Yeah.
You watch, you pay attention on Thursday because you're at work or you're at school or whatever. You pay attention on Thursday.
Yes.
Friday, okay, he's in the mix. He's, he's either up 10 shots or he's right up there.
Yeah.
And Saturday and Sunday. And the last time he won the Masters in 2019, remember they had to play part of the round from the day before.
Yeah.
I was there at 6 a.m, getting up,
Yes.
making sure I was
remember
ready.
that. Yeah.
He was one of those guys. And again, I know that this is a guy that we would not be boys, right? And I
don't know. I might have been boys with Tiger though, man.
But I mean, he was cool with Jordan and some of those guys. But for the longest, his best friend was like Marco Mira or something like that, like a 55-year-old white guy, and he was like in his 20s. It was. I mean, so he doesn't seem like the kind of guy.
Friends, and I wanted to be a friend of one of his friends.
Well, he liked a lot of friends. I don't.
Yeah, that's what I
he. Now we did have that. You know what I mean? So he was one. Earl Campbell for me. Then
Earl, again, not being from Utah, was Earl somebody? Was it the Oilers or was it Earl that you were?
Oh man, it was all of them, but it was Earl, man.
Okay.
Earl,
Okay.
he had the whole city of Houston on his shoulders, man.
Yeah.
It was Bum. It was all of the guys, right? It was all of them collectively.
When I tend to hear the Love You Blue era was a really big thing. And it seems to be what you just said. It was the whole band of brothers.
Right.
And
It
not
was a
necessarily one person.
No, but it boiled down to that one person, because none of that matters without that one person.
Yeah.
Because it was Blue before he got there. It was Love You Blue once he got there.
Oh,
and Bum was around. You know what I mean? It was all of them. And Karl Mark and Robert Brazil and Vernon Perry and 00 Kenny Burrow. It was Mike Barber, Rob Carpenter, Tim Wilson, Ronnie Coleman. I can name all of these guys. Elvin Bethea was the first Oiler I ever met. And I mean, I'd never seen a human that big.
Wow.
And, I was, 5 or 6 years old in some beauty shop on the north side. My dad was. It's a long story, but I met Elvin Bethea there, right? It was just all of them, man. They were a part of us. The money didn't separate the athletes from the city like it does now, right? These guys make too much money. They're not gonna generally be as accessible, right? So there's that. So, but it was Earl was one, Bjorn Borg was one early on. Wimbledon. I would get up. My mom would wake me up for breakfast at Wimbledon on a Wimbledon Sunday. That was more about the event too, but I was a Borg fan. There were others. Serena was one later in her career, and then the others, like I said, Warren and the Oilers. That was constant, right? But they were like those individual people like that. Like if Carl Lewis was running in the Olympics, you cleared out what you were doing to make sure, you couldn't wait to see that. Sugar Ray. Well, less Tyson for me, more Sugar Ray, right?
Oh, Tyson wasn't, you didn't clear out Friday nights when Tyson? Come on, bro.
I was not a Tyson fan. I thought really quickly, I was not a Tyson fan. I just wasn't. I was always a Evander Holyfield fan. Love Holyfield. And I knew that if they would have fought in the 5th grade or if they fight tomorrow, I'm taking Holyfield. It was something about his understanding, his lack of fear. Not to say he couldn't have got knocked out, but I won a lot of money on him. But Tiger was one of those, and I think.
But wait. No, I'm not going to let you do that. So you telling me Mike Tyson wasn't must-see TV for you?
Not for me. I get it.
Wow.
I understood what it was. Oh, I was one of the few, and I will admit it. Y'all can laugh at me if you want. I was one of the few that I thought Spinks could have beat him.
Oh my God! And how long did it take you?
We'll never know because Michael Spinks took a dive.
Oh,
how you go to camp for 8 weeks and you get hit with one body shot and you drop to the ground like you've been shot?
Hey man, he won no more.
I remember Tony Tucker hit him with a right hand, broke his hand, hit him in the first round, and connected a couple times on Tyson. I didn't see the Buster Douglas fight live because it was in Japan and I was at work at Subway, right? And I didn't get a chance. It wasn't a big deal, right? It was like Tyson fighting another nobody, no intrigue there, and got a chance to see the fight, man. And there were people who still couldn't accept the fact that he lost that fight. They were like, oh man, they should have counted him out. And it was like, you couldn't even rely on like, this was a one-punch knockout. It was a fluke. No, he whooped his ass.
It was one of those deals, it was my mama died and I'm going to make somebody pay for it.
Yeah. And that night. And then I was there when Holyfield took it right back from him, from Buster Douglas. So, and when I saw the thing about Tiger, I think you and I talked about this a little bit on KTSU Sports Talk, right? My thoughts about that is that, that opioid thing and hydrocodone, those are dangerous things to deal with. And those are not things that you weigh into frivolously. Obviously, this guy's had a ton of back surgeries, torn Achilles, as you mentioned, his leg almost amputated, in constant pain, knees. And you've been around other athletes that live with pain. So I was much more sympathetic about that, and I do want him to get his help. And so I hope people don't tease. I mean, obviously, the internet is going to do what the internet does and tease, but I just thought that
let me ask you this, because I haven't heard anybody in Tiger's camp, and I'm sure you've heard some people come out and talk from Tiger's people who are in his circle as such, have come out and made some statement. And I know that we assume that it is the pain medicine. And I imagine.
Well, they said that he's seeking treatment, right?
Right.
And they did find 2 hydrocodone pills in his pocket that day, right?
But I'm looking at some of the statements that I heard that some people said they've been trying to tell Tiger, you got to slow down. And people have been saying, Tiger don't want to listen and yada, yada, yada.
Well, what I have come to understand about opioid addiction, and I know it really, really close, like really, really firsthand, it is something that it is so hard. It is so hard to break because what you're doing is you're not taking these pills to get high. You're trying to take those pills just to get to a sense of normalcy. And with each passing day, you got to take more and more just to try to reach normal where you're not in pain. And by the time you look up, you taking a handful of pills and you can't go hours without having them. They have to give you things to come off of those medications because they're so strong. There've been lawsuits, and in some of the opioid addiction that has wiped out the Rust Belt. Man, people. You start off with a football injury and then you become addicted and now you're a heroin person because it's cheaper to get heroin than it is to get prescription medication, pill mills, and all of these things these are not recreational drugs. These are things that people fall into and it's quicksand, bro. And before you look up, you can't get out of it. And I think that no, you're not gonna listen. You tell somebody, hey, you got to stop taking those pills, and they get so terrified of living in pain. They're like, if I have to take these pills or be in pain, I'll take them. I'll take 100 a day if I have to, because I cannot live with the pain. I don't ever want to imagine being in that kind of pain for a prolonged period of time. But I do know people, or former NFL guys, that have back problems, knee problems, ankle problems, and they live in some degree of pain every day. Maybe not as severe as Tigers, and maybe they found other coping mechanisms. But I mean, you've had friends that live in a degree of pain.
Yeah, even with me, I mean, there are times when I wake up in the morning for no reason at all, and my back is just in excruciating pain. But I've also made a conscious decision that I'm not going any further than a Tylenol 3 because again, as you correctly state, man, you can I can go get the pills. I got enough of a medical history, but man, you start taking them and there's the dual part of this where it does make you feel good physically and you floating. So people start looking for both of those things as well. There's I'm gonna take 2 pills and have me a drink and I'm gonna be good. You know what I mean? And so there's both of these things that are happening simultaneously. And then I think we talked about this before, particularly with Tiger, of having an addictive nature.
Right.
And so
you talked about that.
he was addicted, his self-admitted. Didn't he go to sex therapy or something?
Yeah, they
Clinic
all
in
say that.
Louisiana somewhere or something. And
Yeah, but hey, look, that's a fallback that if we could afford it, we've been in a situation. I ain't speaking for you. I'm just saying it's a situation where, hey, it ain't me. It's an addiction. It's not me. It's bigger than me.
Hey, if you a man, you borderline addicted, right?
Right, you right there on you start on third base.
But
on that
there
one.
are levels to things.
Oh
yeah, there's some
there
levels.
are.
But I think that when you have an addictive nature, it really makes it even more tough to deal with these types of things. And we hope again. For me, he was must-see TV on Saturday and Sunday,
Yeah, buddy, man. Like I said, man, we tackled a lot of stuff. We borderline getting canceled on this one. Maybe. I don't know. I said a lot. Man, you were much more politically correct than I don't know what it. Maybe it's this late hour. I just feel like I'm going in a little bit, and I still didn't really go in. But yeah, I guess Chilli has me shook. You know what I mean? So. Like I said, next time we got a lot more sports to get into. I think we can get back into a more of a regular routine, man.
Yeah,
and you've been on KTSU Sports Talk, man, and it's been such a delight having you every Saturday. But I don't want KTSU Sports Talk to take away from this.
Hey, man, well, put me in the game, Doc. Put me in the game,
man.
I told you the problem is you want to keep me on special teams, man. I'm a receiver, man. Throw me one deep, bro.
Well, hey, we ready. We can make that happen. And like I said, man, I really appreciate you coming through on Saturdays when you can, and hopefully we can establish a regular routine where we can get back into the flow because people have hit me up frequently. And I feel like I've really let a lot of people down by not being able to come to him more consistently. But life has been life, and at work, and been doing good work, a lot of good work and a lot of good things, but it's just so time consuming, and both of our schedules and things are always ever changing.
But I'm ready to go. Let's go, bro.
Yeah, man, we got free agency to talk about next time out. We never have talked about Miami and Tua and NFL goings on. We didn't talk about the Final Four and my heartbreak for U of H and all of those things. So, there's a lot to get into, and looking forward to having those conversations. But, and I want to thank you, Reg, but next up, we are going to have that conversation with Marcus Sullivan, talking about his take as a someone who his life is revolved around the religious world, whether it's gospel music or gospel media or religious media. We will talk to him and get his thoughts about Jaden Ivy. That's coming up for you. You are tuned in to the Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast, wherever you get your podcast. Joined now, as promised, by media mogul, the content creator and owner and all things, CEO of Blessed Beats Media, a friend of mine, also operations manager at KTSU, Marcus Sullivan, sometimes sports fan. I say sometimes.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, you in it, but you're not in it. How much do you watch of anything these days, and what do you watch most of?
All right, so I am a big sports fan. I claim to be a sports guy. It's just now I wear so many hats. I can't dive into sports like I want to. So I would say I'm in order. I would say football, boxing, basketball, no, track and field, basketball, and then everything else. So baseball will fall far down on my list, but
You say
basketball.
track and field above basketball as far as watching? I mean, as a spectator sport, or just your area of interest?
If the 100-meter final is on and the NBA finals is on, I'm watching the 100-meter final.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've had these discussions about boxing, and of course we're going to get to the reason why we brought you in. But I just don't get the same joy out of boxing. Obviously, I was spoiled by the generation in which I have access to and remember. My earliest fights that I remember are Ali fights late in his career, Spinks, and maybe Norton before that, and then all of the bad stuff to his end, but then of course the sort of the heyday. The golden era of welterweights, super welterweights, junior middleweights. When you talk about Hagler, Hearns, Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, there were so many really, really good fighters. Wilfredo Benitez. So we have these discussions about boxing. I don't engage with the sport in the same way because I really miss what the sport was. And, there's still an appetite for boxing, right? There's still a huge appetite. It's just what fights can be put together.
What's the fall off for you?
The fall off is the level of talent. I don't believe that any of these guys could really compete. Then even if you had one or two that may be able to be in that era, you don't have a deep bench, right? I see the fights. They're not quality fights. I think really Pernell kind of ruined the sport in a lot of ways. He's not the only one.
Whitaker?
Yeah. No, not Pernell Whitaker. I mean, Floyd. Floyd ruined the sport in a lot of ways because he didn't make the fights that the fight. If you want to talk about one fight, the fight, he didn't make that fight. And by the time they did, it was 5, 6, 7 years too late. I mean, I can go back to Lennox Lewis, for that matter, when he, was the counter puncher, the jabber to win, the heavyweight title. And there's no American heavyweights. Wilder doesn't really count. I mean, there are a lot of things that are wrong with the sport. Obviously, the Olympic boxing is not what it was. So, I mean, it's falling off, and I miss it. I really, really miss what the sport was because it was on the zeitgeist. It was on the front page, right? It not just of the sports section of the newspaper when it was really, really big. I mean, you remember when Foreman won and beat Moore. You remember that.
Yeah. And I mean, I've watched documentaries on. I mean, if you're a fight fan, a good documentary, and you can watch them on YouTube. Where is HBO's I think it's called Classic Nights or
Right.
Legendary
Right.
Nights.
Right.
And it'll show Mildred Taylor's fight. It'll show and they do a documentary style. It's only 30 minutes. And
Right.
so those are good episodes. But I mean, I gotta say this. You and I, we're one generation apart. Right? Maybe we even cross over
You're
on a
a
lot of stuff. But
generation with Biscuit, with my brother. You may be a little bit older than my brother, but you're in a generation with my brother.
Yeah. And so but you carry a more older soul when it comes to sports. I mean, I'm looking at your background, right?
Right.
You love you blue, right? I'm a Texans fan, right?
Right.
So we're different in that. But when it comes to the fights, what killed boxing, the adoration for boxing was pay-per-view. Outside of that, these fighters, I mean, you do have the Haglers, the Hearns, you do have those that can't be matched today. But what killed it is fights that are premier fights now are considered pay-per-view when every fight shouldn't be paid. Every fight is not a pay-per-view fight. And now boxing has become a sport. And MMA has a lot to do with it too, because that's pay-per-view. Right? A regular MMA event is pay-per-view, right? And so that is what killed what boxing is. And now that you're pay-per-view as a fighter, you're trying to get your pay-per-view numbers up. So now you're marketing yourself as this person on social media. You're trying to have the lifestyle and all of that because you want to sell pay-per-view tickets, right? And so now the fighters won't fight each other. If you can't, I won't fight you unless I know you're a draw. Regardless if, and back in the day, it was who's the best. We fight who's the best.
And not only that, you bring up the exact thing that did kill the sport of boxing. I totally agree with you. But what the difference is, you used to come up on free television, right? It was free to watch you come up. You had to work to achieve a certain level to get to be a pay-per-view fighter. And now it's not like that. And so now it makes people not want to invest in a guy. I don't know this guy. I don't know anything about him. And you don't have that Olympic feeder system into pro boxing. Used to be you had a handful of champions or people that competed in the latest Olympics that, turned pro, and then you follow their career. You think about Oscar De La Hoya, the golden boy. It came from that. Holyfield's, his sort of controversial end to his Olympic run. Roy Jones was another one. Sugar Ray Leonard, Frazier, Ali, all of these people really got they were household names in many ways before they stepped into a professional ring. And without amateur boxing being what it was, and really the demographics of things have changed. We as a society are a little bit softer, right? So, we used to slap box and, do all of that at the bus stop. And it's not quite the same, man. People, I remember being a kid, we got some, our hands on some gloves. Then that was the day that I realized I was never going to be a boxer because we fought in somebody's backyard.
I gotta agree with you. And the last thing I would say is now in the marketing game, promoters like the Don Kings and the Bob Arums, they were making their money putting the best fighters together, and they were making money. Now, I won't call it a label. I'll call it a promoter, a promotion. They'll build an artist. They'll build a boxer up, right? The boxer doesn't have to be an Olympian now. He could be Ryan Garcia with the 3 million followers, and we're going to put him in front of some tomato cans. We're going to get a couple of a good Instagram clips, a couple of good knockouts here and there. Let him go viral a couple of times. And now, outside of the fight circle, people are paying for pay. Oh, he's the truth. I'll pay for his fight, right? Which is why the Logan Pauls and all of these people can come up and demand more money than two great fighters fighting, because they're not selling to just fight fans. They're selling to my kids, right? So that's what killed boxing, if you ask me. But I still get a kick out of a fight night, bro. I still buy some of the pay-per-views. I bootleg somebody's, but
So what do you think of the Logan Pauls of the world and the, I guess, supposed, I don't think this is going to happen now, the Tyson Floyd Mayweather exhibition? I think that's going to be on hold because they are going to have a second senior citizen version of Pacquiao versus Floyd, which, you know, is really kind of embarrassing. But what do you think of the Logan Pauls of the world in this space?
First off, I didn't know the Tyson thing was delayed. I thought that still was on, so that's news to me.
Well, yeah, we don't have a date for it. They have not officially called it off. But if you're Floyd and you have this Pacquiao thing coming up, I don't know that you'll make that Tyson thing. But maybe you will go for it. I'm not sure.
They're gonna make so much money on Pacquiao Mayweather too, simply because you're right. As an athlete and a sports person, you and I both know this fight ain't gonna be worth nothing to watch. However, build up to this thing, and people like me who want to watch two old men get busy and see who the better old man. At this point, that's the only reason I want to watch. Who's the better old man? That's
so here's the deal, and here's the good news for Floyd. Like, if he gets knocked flat out, it does not tarnish his career at all. It doesn't tarnish his career at all. I look at this like late in Holyfield and Ali's career. When you think about Ali, most people don't think about the tragic end. You think about the highlights. You think about the entire situation. And so I think whatever happens in this fight won't hurt his legacy. It'll create arguments at the barbershop, but I don't think ultimately it won't affect his his legacy at all. So from that standpoint, he has nothing to lose, even if it is a sanctioned fight. So
I was gonna say this, but you asked about the Logan Pauls and that situation. As a fight fan, as a sports fan, I hate to see it, right? But this just goes to the dominance of social media. This goes to dominance of the digital era, where it's like a musical artist. We work in radio. You ain't got to be able to sing the house down no more. Can you market, right? Right. And we're doing a podcast right now. You start looking at celebrities doing podcasts simply because they can go close a deal with Coca-Cola based on their name. Podcasts can only last a season, and they can get a $250,000 deal real quick and get out the game. And to people who are students of the game, media people, we go, man, you making it hard for us, right? Boxers are like, Logan Paul, you making it hard for me, right? AI artists are like, man, you making it hard for me. And the problem is, you attribute that to digital content and the whole social media era. So to answer that question, I don't like it, but it's the name of the game now.
Yeah, and talking about brand imaging, obviously you own a podcast company that is blowing up as well. So, you are familiar with that space. And what people don't realize, and this is what's frustrating, I think, to you and to me, and like I said, media professionals, is that some of these podcasts, a lot of these podcasts are really, really bad. And these people have access to celebrities, however they have access. They get access, but they come in, they're not prepared. We've seen podcasts with Jeff Teague where he didn't know who his guest was. I heard someone interviewing Sherelle and didn't even do the basic research of listening to what they call their favorite song to understand what the song was about. I mean, just things like that. It irks me. And then it further irks me that these have tremendous numbers, but these people are doing such a bad job. A lot of pro athletes, they have great conversations, but as a presentation, a lot of these podcasts are really obviously not done by professionals, and they're not that good. There's no structure in there. And while that can serve you well, right? In a way, it can serve you well because you got the freedom to speak extemporaneously, and you can go off on diatribes. At points, it's just you get lost, and it's just words. So it is a frustrating thing to see boxing and media, really, for that matter, parallel each other.
Take this real quick. If you are a Fortune 500 company, right? And I want to sell you Big Macs, I want to sell you Coca-Cola, I want to sell you something, right? And you're doing an amazing job with your podcast right now. You booking a guest, you know what you're talking about is making sense, right? And you don't get the platform, you don't have the megaphone, and then a Ocho Cinco pops up, and in his Rolodex, he got all of these people, and they really not talking about nothing, but they got 500,000 views. It's the name of the game. Amazon is gonna say, "I'll pay you because my logo is sitting right here." You know what I mean?
Right.
And so that's
and we've known this for a long time. Like, media is not a meritocracy. It's not about how good you are a lot of times. I mean, even in the recording industry, you talk about you have your Vanilla Ices of the world, and then on the other end of the spectrum, Rakim. And of course, we could get into the whole different conversation about that on a different episode. But the reason why I wanted to bring you on, obviously, you have a tremendous amount of influence in the gospel space and sort of the religious genre of music. And I mean, this is your world. And of course, those worlds intersected with one Mr. Jaden Ivy, who was released by the Chicago. Oh, you can plug. We'll give you a chance to plug.
You said I got the religion stuff. I got Bibles and everything everywhere. But go ahead.
Yeah. So this is your lane. And sports and religion intersect from time to time, and it has with Jaden Ivy. Ivy was released by the Chicago Bulls because he came out very strongly against LGBTQ the rainbow celebrations that the organization was having. He went to social media. He went live a couple of times. He, said some things about Catholicism, and essentially the team was like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. And you are released. Now, that brings up a lot of different avenues that you can go down and have a discussion about. When you think about, okay, here's a man professing his religion, and everybody wants to be aligned with the family. This is a family product. The NBA is family friendly. Remember, the NBA is a league that just canceled Magic City night in Atlanta. Where Magic City is a famous strip club. Right? So they're like, yeah, that's not. And you saw the Stephen A. Smiths of the world saying, oh, no, no, that's too much, and we can't do that. And this is a family product. And now you have a man on the other end of the spectrum professing his religion, his religious beliefs. He gets ostracized and extricated from the team. I'm interested to hear your take on all of that.
Man, Devin, this is one of those ones that these are the parts that you actually you clip, because the way this story is unfolding, it is a firecracker, right? You say one thing, the other side is going in. You say the other side, the audacity of you going in. Overall, okay, so if I'm being fair, if I'm just being fair,
right?
Strip him of the NBA celebrity lifestyle and just say, black man with a job for a company, right? Dear sir, dear ma'am, hear me well. Go to your job tomorrow and go live on your Facebook or your Instagram with your no celebrity self and say the same thing and watch the same thing happen.
Right.
My point. Here's my point, Devin. Man, when believers first come to Christ, We call it being on fire for the Lord. And that's all good. You want to go tell everybody about God. You want to tell them what he did, tell people how it changed you, how it saved you. And it feels good, especially if I can get through to the next person, maybe going through the same thing with me. So it feels great. And we call it being bold. And in Romans 1:16, unashamed, right? Of the gospel. And that is all good. I walk around with my Christian ease on me, right? Unashamedly, boldly for Christ. However, some of my personal thoughts need to stay in the confines of this. You tack on celebrity to it, or even regular person, and if I'm your employer and you about to cause this microscope on my business, you gotta go. Right? Now, is he wrong? He's absolutely not wrong, right? I'm proud of him for doing what he did and standing up for what he did. Man, do what you the two sides
Well,
of
see,
coin.
but hold on. But see, now you're getting into how you interpret the gospel, right? So, I mean,
Yes.
and I'm not a theologian, so I can't go verse for verse with you, but I do understand that people have opposing understandings of the text. So
Yes.
when these sorts of things happen, he went in and basically said Catholicism was a false religion and all of that. Whether people believe that or not, I don't know that that's the most effective way to bring people to your side of the street, as it were.
Right.
And I'm not saying he's right or wrong. That's whatever he believes. I'm not getting into that part of the discussion.
He could
But
have used wisdom. And being on fire is one thing, but speaking with wisdom, he could have said a lot of the same stuff with wisdom and drove his point home. But he came radically emotional and came at it like is he wrong? I agree with what he said, right? But and you know, off the record, we've had these conversations. It's two organizations. The two biggest bullies on the block, right? Right? Can I say who they are or no?
well, I would probably stay away from that. But there's certain
this
groups
my
that are very well organized and able to respond to any anti in that space. So, and I think it is fair to say, safe enough to say that it's a very organized community around LGBTQ rights, and there
Right.
are people in place that will organize and protest and do those things if they feel an anti sentiment coming their way. If is hate is a strong word, but that would be the term that they would use, hate. So they're
And those
very well organized.
Those organizations band together and they get loud. And by them banding together and speaking loudly, that will shake a organization or a business to its core, because at the end of the day, they have buying power or spending power, however you want to say it. So when the NBA said, man, you loud and you reckless with this, I can't attach myself to this. Now, they never said, hey, he's wrong for doing it. They're saying, hey, you're cut for your comments, right?
So, yeah. And so was it the right thing to do for the organization?
Can I flip it? Can I flip that?
Go ahead.
I'm going to ask a question with a question. All right. Your question was it the right thing to do for the organization?
Right.
Is it right for the NFL to not give Kaepernick another chance?
See, now we can get into a whole aspect of that. And I do think ultimately he was blackballed, but that was
Devin, it's the same thing.
Well, essentially it is, right? Because essentially they were removed for things that I think were going to affect money, right? And I think once Trump came out and basically went after, because Kaepernick continued to play. He played until he opted out of his contract. And once he opted out of his contract, he had another year on his deal. He opted out. Which was a mistake. He should have stayed and made all his money. He opted out to be a free agent Then Trump, of course, said kick his ass out of the league, and I'm paraphrasing, but not by much. And that's when the owners like Jerry Jones and all of them, because initially during Black Lives Matter, the owners were taking knees, right? And then there was,
Devin.
You remember Jerry Jones took a knee? You remember that?
Devin.
Do you remember that?
That was on primetime TV when he took the knee with the team. But believe you me, he wasn't taking a knee for that reason. He was taking a knee so these tickets can keep getting sold.
Well, and to appease his football players too. But yeah. I mean, look,
let's do it. Right?
Yeah, these companies, man, these corporations they're not spiritual. They don't care one way or the other. They'll go any way the wind blows. They really will. And you know what's interesting to me is I'm surprised that there's not more pushback against the organization in light of, we saw what happened with Charlie Kirk. Once something happened to him, nobody could say anything negative about him. And, you wonder, where's the pushback from those folks to say, hey, this is a man espousing his religious beliefs. Why is he getting punished? And maybe we will see that. But I think because he's a black man, you won't see that group defending him in any way.
Okay. So to answer your question, is it right for the organization to do what they did based on what he said, right? What was that question,
right? What was it the right thing to do?
And I answered the question with a question. And what was your answer to?
Well, it's complex, but I think ultimately, if a job of a corporation is to make money, right? Yep. They did the right thing. Both of them did. Now, you as a consumer, not you, but the collective us as consumers, get to decide if we make these organizations and corporations pay. Do you boycott? And there were a lot of people. There were a lot of people who that did not come back immediately to the NFL because of what they did to Colin Kaepernick. There's still people I know that don't watch the NFL for that reason.
These NBAs and these NFLs, they would rather kick a person out of the league and get a bunch of bad comments on social, get a couple of people that's going to get loud and protest, get a couple of players to say, I ain't falling for this, and deal with it for 2-3 weeks and be on to the next thing.
Because, the playoffs are coming. Playoffs are coming, and this will be a bump in the road.
Right now, he wasn't an all-star. Y'all will be mad. Kaepernick wasn't Brady. Y'all gonna be mad, and we gonna rah, and this is wrong, watch this, Devin. It's wrong. But when you ask me the question, from a business standpoint, I do the same thing. I wouldn't hire Kaepernick neither, from a business perspective. From a player, that boy need another chance. From a player, Ivy shouldn't be kicked out of the league for freedom of speech, which brings me to my question to you. Is freedom of speech still a thing or no?
Well, he's free to say it. He won't go to jail. But we know that speech costs. Look at Chilli from TLC. So, nobody's going to arrest Ivy. Nobody's going to arrest Chilli or Nick Cannon. Nobody's going to put them in jail, and to the extent that they use the word cancel means I don't rock with your ass no more. That means I don't it. It doesn't mean this sort of banishment. If you say something that I can't rock with, then all of a sudden I can't support you. If I feel strong enough about that issue, right? Whatever the issue is, if I feel that strongly about something that you said or you did, I can separate the artist. I don't have to separate the artist from the art or the performer from the man. And so, he won't go to jail for what he said, but we all know everything we say comes with a potential cost. We know that more than anybody else. We are on the airwaves all the time, and we know we are one phrase away from ending our careers every time we open up that microphone.
Would you consider that what we do or what players have to do, code switch?
Oh, I think you absolutely have to code switch. And I think the smart thing for anybody that has any sort of beliefs, you accrue as much financial gain as you can so you can put that money to work to push forward your cause. So you can feel strong and fight the fight. You can fight the whole war now and lose the war now. Or you can make as much money as you can make and squeeze every dime out of these billionaires and then take that money and then promote whatever your religious beliefs are, whatever causes you are behind. And youth and excitement, and no matter, and no telling whatever other things he might be going through. Because he seems like, and I said this, seems like he's going through something or is coming through something that has him so just profoundly affected that he just will not, compromise anything. There's no room. It's totally black and white. Everything is either good or bad. And we as a human, we don't live in that world, right? We don't live in a world of black and white. There's a lot of nuance. There are a lot of complications about being a human on in this existence. So, it's just an interesting thing to talk about.
Let me give you another card from this table. It's not a switch of the gears, but this is right on with it, right? So this whole Ivy thing is more political than it is anything, correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think so.
All right.
At the end, but yeah, to the extent that religion is affected, that the politics of religion is affecting the outcome here. Right. I agree with that.
As a band of players, how do they get their rights back to be able to go on their own platform, or this is something you give up? How do you and I, as media people, get our rights back to be able to say what we want to say, or is this the part that we give up? Because I have a reason why in my head of why the NBAs and the NFL can get away with this stuff, right?
Well, okay. The first thing about it is all of his peers are not going to agree with him, right? We know that. So it's not like, oh, he's speaking for the players. He was speaking for him and his beliefs. There are a lot of players. I mean, you best believe there are gay players in there, there are gay staff members, there are gay people in the organization. They don't agree with him. So what he says is not representative of them. It's representative of him. Now, you may have some players that agree with him, and, but I think that
But is it right that they kicked him out?
No, I mean, I again, if you, from a fiduciary standpoint, for your money, and if you're gonna alienate portions of your audience, I think unless you are that good, we always talk about this, the equation of how much trouble are you versus how good you are. We see it with like Antonio Brown went through this, Tyreek Hill. You can be the biggest fool if you are as good as those guys are, but as soon as you start to fall off, then you're not worth the headache. And that's all. Had he been a pro, all-pro, an NBA All-Star, he would have been suspended, and they would have talked. Had him go to counseling and try to work with it.
Kyrie Irving,
right? He's back. I mean, injured but back. Right.
Well, I'm saying, you remember when he had his moments when he started saying some stuff, and all he got was suspended.
Well, the thing was he didn't take his shot, and that was an issue. And again, that's a whole nother issue because you are looking at that time, you're looking out for the safety of the league. He didn't agree with it. That broke that Brooklyn team up. If you think about it, that broke them up. So again, but he's so good that that's just a footnote in his biography, right? We don't even talk about that.
Yeah, nobody even talking about that no more. Right?
We can't wait for him to get back so they can see what Dallas does when they, when they have all their guns or whatever. But, it's just one of those things. So before we get out of here, I want to give you an opportunity to plug all of the things that you are involved in, and Blessed Beats, Grand Imaging, any things you want to promote, you certainly can, for a lot of folks who haven't come into contact with you.
I'm going to promote, but I got to say this. I'm going to add one thing to the table that I want to do now. I want to be an official co-host on your podcast. I think your podcast is that good, man. I need to be your co-host, bro. I need a job. I need another job.
No, you don't need another job. You got a lot of jobs.
Marcus Sullivan on Instagram at Marcus Sullivan Live. I lead a morning devotion Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and I call it The Bible is Better Than Netflix. I got the book out. It was on the Amazon's bestseller. And it's literally Bible stories that you and I both heard. And we just kind of make them movie style, like you're watching Netflix. I kind of break these stories down in episodes, like Netflix. So I have that, and you can hit me on Instagram if you ever wanted to join that. I do that Monday through Wednesday. Own podcasting studio. I'm gonna say that better. I own the best podcasting studios in all of H-Town. Grand Imaging Studios. You can always Google that. And Blessed Beach Radio, 118 markets, 118 cities. We do that each and every weekend. And then me and Devin, we ride shotgun with each other at KTSU 90.9 Monday through Monday, I should say.
Well, like I said, it's always interesting to talk to you, whether we are on the air or not. And I actually, instead of being on KTSU Sports Talk, this is a more, when you talk about boundaries and gatekeepers, this is a much freer environment to talk the way we want to talk, as opposed to our responsibilities on the airways of KTSU. So I knew it would be interesting. Just the tip of the iceberg, and we certainly will invite you back. And we have plenty to talk about.
Can I, if this was ESPN, they have their guest at once a week. I could be a guest once. I could be your Cam Newton, bro.
You say these things, but you know, and I know, if I call you next week, because you'll be pulled in 100 different directions. But anytime you got time, we'll make this happen. But I only have one request of you. You're going to start watching some games, man. You're going to watch some games.
You didn't even talk to me about sports. I could have got you in some games.
You played at U of H. The Cougars fell short the other night. I don't think you saw that game, right? You didn't see that the other night.
Yeah. No, I ain't gonna lie. I quit watching that game.
Well, I watched to the end.
I couldn't do the end. But
like I said, we'll revisit, man, and I certainly appreciate your time and look forward to visiting with you again.
Number one, I don't do no favors after 6 o'clock in the evening. 2, I ain't got no money. 3, I'm not harboring any fugitives from justice. And 4, bye.
This has been the Sports Talk with Devin Wade podcast. Remember, you can follow him on Twitter at Wade's Word. Thank you for listening.